AK na wengine wengi, pamoja na watangazaji wako wa Radio Taifa, Georges Waka, Boni Musambi, Junior Dread na wengine wengi. Ijumaa tarehe 27 tutazuru Githurai, Juja, Kenyatta Road, Gatondo, Igegania na Theka Theka. Nayo Jumamosi tarehe 28 mwezi wa 4 tutazuru Kikuyu Town, Kwambera, Githongori, Kiambu, Banana, Wangige hadi Limuru. Jitokeze, uzawadiwe, uburudike na utumbuizwe na wasanii tajika kama Joyce wa Mama, Ngaroya Junior, Smart wa Mam na Gadhiaka Wanjeri. Ni roadshow ya Shoro FM na KBC Radio Taifa kwa udhamini mkubwa wa Kamothe Housing Cooperative Society na Mtiba kutoka Safaricom. Twaweza.
And tonight, MPs have made a step forward in sanitizing Kenya's cyberspace. The Computer and Cyber Crimes Bill has been passed by the National Assembly, and what is awaited is an assent by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
And tapping the honey money. Why beekeepers are smiling all the way to their hives. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Business Insight. We are on air and online. My name is O'Brien Kimani.
I am Edward Kabasa. Thank you very much for making time for us. You can interact with us through our social media platforms, KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, at KBC Channel 1 on Twitter.
And of course, we shall be updating you on the latest from Ihora Stadium. So you all had better keep it right here. My Twitter handle is at O'Brien Kimani. But before we get there, Kabasa has the highlights.
Yes.
Na najua ni wengi ambao hawakufurahia vile tulifanya. Tunajua tu, tunasikiza huko na huko. Hata wengine upande yangu, hata wengine upande yake. Hivyo ndivyo ukweli. Kwa
Democracy icon Kenneth Matiba is held in Murang'a.
If there is going to be a suggestion on arranging or rearranging devolution, good people, it cannot be creating another layer. It should be taking the counties to the wards. It cannot be devolution upwards. It will have to be devolution downwards.
Deputy President William Ruto dismisses Constitution Amendment talk and hope for a resolution to the ongoing lecturers' strike as an interministerial task force to look into the dispute is launched.
Once again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. O'Brien Kimani will be back with the day's business. Our sign language interpreter is Steve Ndunde. President Uhuru Kenyatta says his handshake with opposition leader Raila Odinga should not be jeopardized by the politics of 2022. Speaking in Uhuru Stadium, Murang'a County, during the funeral service of the late veteran politician Kenneth Matiba, Uhuru said 2022 will come and go and politicians should focus on uniting Kenyans for the sake of development. The president said though many were not happy with the newfound unity with opposition leader, this nation was bigger than all, warning that if Kenya were to burn, no one was safe. The head of state said the handshake was not predicated on a constitutional change, but the need to bring all Kenyans together.
On Thursday, family and friends of the late veteran politician Kenneth Matiba gathered in Murang'a to bid him farewell.
Matiba was somebody who was prepared to pay the ultimate to bring about change in this country.
Glowing tributes being paid to a man whose latter political years
the life of a hero of multi-party democracy.
President Uhuru Kenyatta using the platform to rally Kenyans towards the newfound cohesion between him and opposition chief Raila Odinga.
Let us focus on what matters to our people. Because if we succeed there, we have not only succeeded for ourselves, we have succeeded for future generations, and we have helped realize the dream, and we will have helped say that the sacrifice of men like Matiba was worth it.
Uhuru said 2022 will come and go and politicians should focus on uniting Kenyans for the sake of development.
Ati tukipatana na Raila tumeshika mkono, tumesalimiana, story imeanza ya 2022. As Raila has said, there will be 2022, there will be 2027, there will be 2020s mpaka ifike 3,000. Tunaelewana?
The president said though many were not happy with the newfound change in the political scene, this nation was bigger than all, urging leaders to work together for greater good of this country. Speaker after speaker expressing the need for Kenyans to pull together, a vision that was for the longest time shared by Kenneth Matiba.
He would stay at the Alliance and frequently visit our family home, which is when I got to know him just a little bit better.
Jesus Christ, our Lord.
The late Kenneth Matiba will be interred at a private ceremony on Friday.
Deputy President William Ruto has dismissed the three-tier system of government proposed by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. While closing the three-day devolution conference in Kakamega, Ruto said that the proposed system would be so costly to Kenyans who are already overburdened.
Even before the dust settles, Deputy President William Ruto has made firm his stance on the proposal to introduce 14 regional blocks.
If there is going to be a suggestion on arranging or rearranging devolution, good people, it cannot be creating another layer. It should be taking the counties to the wall.
Responding to proposals by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on a three-tier system of government, the DP said such structure would be very costly to a country currently struggling with skyrocketing wage bill.
These are issues that can be prosecuted without engaging in billion-shilling referendum. There are issues we can sort out without reference to any referendum. These are issues we can deal with.
Ruto instead urged leaders to focus on strengthening the current devolved system of governance, saying that there is need to seal loopholes of corruption and prudent use of devolved resources. The DP challenged governors not to feel intimidated when they are called to respond to audit quizzes, saying any criticism will help build the momentum of devolution. He said there was need for a close working relationship between the governors and the Senate, as well as county assemblies, which are supposed to oversight devolution.
Yes, with that authority comes responsibility. And with responsibility, good friends, comes the imperative of accountability.
The achievements of our goals will definitely be derailed if we fail to work together. The message of cooperation, consultation, and coordination is one that needs to be taken very seriously by the technocrats at all levels of government.
That we are going to work with you, we'll work together to ensure that we succeed in realization of the Big Four.
Irene Uchuma Odim, Channel 1 News Hour.
The government has launched a 9-member interministerial task force to try and end the ongoing lecturers' strike in public universities. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed said the committee will review the adequacy of capitation, income generation, and institutional revenue and expenditure trends before coming up with a sustainable counter-offer on the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement demanded by the Dons.
The Dons have been on the streets for over 6 weeks now, demanding a counter-offer on their 2017-2021 CBA, their fingers pointing at the Ministry of Education, claiming it was not taking their demand seriously. But now the ministry is trying to bring the strike to an end. A 9-member task force has been constituted to try and get to the root cause of the strike and advise on how best to address the stalemate.
The committee, which is drawn from a cross-section of all these players, will locate the role of each ministry and enable a collaborative resolution to our immediate mandates. And our immediate mandate is to determine a sustainable counter-offer for the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement. The committee's terms of delivery are to undertake the assignment within a period of 1 month, giving priority to the determination of a counter-offer for the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement, and to submit a report within 2 weeks after the expiry of that period.
Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed said the strike has unearthed a number of issues that affect the quality of education in the country, among them lack of professionalism by lecturers and staff that need to be addressed permanently. The task force will also review governance and human resource management policies, practices and staffing in public universities.
One is to review adequacy of capitation, income generation and institutional revenue and expenditure trends, and determine a sustainable counter-offer for the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement. Second, review and advise on the appropriate institutional and administrative structure for collective bargaining in public universities. Third, is to review governance and human resources management policies, practices, and staffing.
The CS saying there is an urgent need to restructure the entire sector to stop the perennial lecturers' strike, which have been experienced over the last 1 year. The committee will also review successes and challenges of the Module 2 degree programs in the development of the university education.
The Directorate of Public Prosecution says it has put in place mechanisms to enhance its capacity to undertake prosecution of terrorism-related criminal matters as efforts to slay the ghost of violent extremism intensifies. Speaking at the close of the International Conference on Terrorism and Violent Extremism, Assistant Director in the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, Edwin Okello, said the measures have seen sources of funds for terrorists shrink.
It has been 3 days of deliberations on mechanisms of fighting terror and extremism in the wake of emerging threats and trends. And as the curtains came down for the 3rd day of the International Conference on Terrorism and Violent Extremism, Senior Deputy Director in the Directorate of Public Prosecution, Edwin Okello, was upbeat over the ongoing war on terror. Okello says that one of the key strategies has been safeguarding the human rights of terror suspects, even as efforts to combat youth radicalization intensifies.
Do our responses also encourage terrorism? Because what you would be telling them, you see how they treat us. when there's a terror attack somewhere and then you go and round up everybody, it's all captured. You're probably beating them up. You remember what happened at the mosques a few years ago? This is what they use to fuel and to encourage their youth to join terrorism.
Okello says cutting off monetary channels among terror groups has proved the magical key in stifling terror groups.
They can even bring funds through bulk money across the borders. They use Hawala systems. But all this, again, let's say they bring in money from Somalia to Kenya through the borders. How do they bring it in through the borders? They can only bring it through the borders if at the border points we also have corrupt officers.
The 3 days conference came to a close on Thursday, with scholars and professionals in the security sector asking governments to enhance their intelligence gathering mechanisms in fighting radicalization and violent extremism.
And this war, the war on terror, has got to be intelligence led and using a variety of approaches. So there's more exchange of information within government agencies. What we need to do more is the dialogue and engagement with communities.
The conference, organized by the Horn International Institute, coming as Kenya grapples with insecurity orchestrated by the Somali ragtag militia Al-Shabaab. Reporting for Channel 1 News Hour, I'm Ron Cliff.
And to cybersecurity, where Parliament has passed a bill criminalizing distribution of obscene or intimate images. The Computer and Cyber Crimes Bill adopted Thursday spells out a 2-year jail term for anybody found circulating such materials through the internet. The bill comes at a time the social media is awash with explicit video said to be of Kirinyaga Deputy Governor Peter Ndambiri in a compromising situation.
As cybersecurity continues to give headache to governments across the globe, fraudsters and criminals have exploited the digital age to con and steal millions and even extort from unsuspecting populace. The country now realizing that cybercrime was becoming a national threat that should be dealt with within the legal framework. Parliament on Thursday passed the Computer and Cybercrimes Bill that will provide a roadmap to prevent and control the threat of cybercrime.
This piece of legislation has delayed. It should have come in the 10th Parliament, in the 11th Parliament, but I am sure members will agree with me that today we have set the stage.
If assented to by the President, any person found guilty of publishing false information will be liable to a fine of 5 million shillings or 10 years in jail or both.
This bill will deal with those guys who made people die 10 times when they are still alive.
We have young boys and girls who have become now extortionists. They extort money from members of parliament, they extort money from public servants, they extort money from anybody and anything that flies in social media, Mr. Speaker.
The law also seeks to clamp down on the distribution of obscene and intimate images, akin to the latest explicit video claimed to be of Kirinyaga Deputy Governor Peter Ndambiri.
I have a multi-layer of passwords on my phone because I have young children in my house. And the kind of things that are sent to our phones, Mr. Speaker, are things you never want, leave alone your wife seeing and accusing you of those things being true, Mr. Speaker, or those people, knowing those people.
Also illegalized is identity theft and impersonation, as well as unauthorized use of trademarks, internet domains, and phrases registered to someone else. A person who accesses a computer for the purposes of terrorism shall, on conviction, be liable to a fine not exceeding 5 million shillings or 10 years in jail. The MPs, however, shot down amendments by the government seeking to authorize the police to search or seize computers without a warrant.
Saudi Arabia has pledged to support the Kenyan government in realizing the Big Four agenda as spelled out by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Saudi Arabian ambassador to Kenya, Dr. Mohammed Kayat, says Saudi Arabia remains committed to build the capacity of Kenyan farmers as part of ongoing efforts to improve food security.
For agenda, the Jubilee government has prioritized food security as it seeks to empower the citizenry.
They produce very good fertilizer for us Kenyans. DAP is a very good fertilizer
for their families and for the world. Food production is a very important thing, and we try to help with a good production of DAP. Mahadin produce the best DAP in the world, not only that is good quality but also healthy and with less minerals into it.
And with agriculture contributing about 51% of the gross domestic product, the sector remains a major driver of the Kenyan economy. Saudi Arabian Ambassador to Kenya, Dr. Mohamed Hayat, saying that his government will continue its support for Kenya in her efforts to become food secure.
This is something very useful for the Kenyan community, for our friends in Kenya, and as we promise, we will keep such of activities to strengthen our good relationship.
The measures, including introduction of Saudi products at subsidized costs.
The relationship between the two countries will be of great help if we cooperate in the side of fertilizers, because we'll be able to boost our agricultural production.
Khalid Al-Mudaifa, president and CEO of the Madin mining company, billed as the world's largest fully integrated fertilizer production, expressing commitment to support Kenyan farmers enhance crop yields through the use of mineral fertilizers that will contribute to safe and healthy food supplies.
We're trying to be closer to our customer, not only the distributor, but also the farmers, to understand problems they have, so we can make them the best fertilizer to their best crops, to their own lands, a special fertilizer for Kenya.
The development coming as delegates from Saudi Arabia toured several farmers in Joro, Nakuru County, promising to work together with the Kenyan government in a move geared towards realizing the Big Four agenda.
18 minutes past 9. A very good evening to you. If you're just joining us, this is Channel 1 Business Insight. A quick break here, but don't go too far. O'Brien Kimani is coming up next with today's business.
Every 4 minutes is a chance for you to win big with Mega Dollar. Just go to Lipa na M-Pesa, enter paybill number 295888, account name KBC, and amount from 10 shillings or more. Then select your 10 numbers from 1 to 80 and send to 29588. You can win up to 30 million shillings. Start playing now and win. Mega Dollar. Big winners every 4 minutes.
The Easy Banking app is your bank anywhere, anytime. Everything you do at the bank is on Easy Banking app. You can use the app to send money, pay bills, buy and pay for goods and services, access easy loans, check the status of your account, save for future goals, and so much more. And now you can enjoy an even better banking experience with the just updated Easy Banking app. Loaded with a great suite of powerful features, so you're always in control of your banking lifestyle wherever you are. Download the Easy Banking app from Google Play Store or App Store and link your Equity Bank account. If you do not have an Equity Bank account, open one hapo from the app. Easy Banking. Experience convenience in life.
Nilikuwa nataka ambio DJ nicheze hiyo wimbo kusimama na magoti, halafu unawekelea kidogo. Adiba.
Inama kidogo, shika magoti. Mimi nimesimama kama ngongoti.
Nicheze hiyo wimbo ya Dominion.
Kwenda kabisa.
Unajua hajasema kama kwani ni very bad.
Akasema prezo akanitupia mkono. Kunitupia mkono na mimi pia nikamrushia. Niliona nimeweka shop moja ya mkono hapo.
Nimesikia mimi ndo nilimeza susu.
Hiyo ndio spirit
yetu sote sisi watu ambao tunakula vizuri. Tunakulanga kumaliza.
Hapa ndo nyumbani, karibu katika Mahanja.
Keep it Mahanja, KBC.
Pango mzima. Wanjoma Dongo Mirwa Koreko Bunda. Ile show kubwa East Africa.
Top Mashariki, just ring the alarm. I miss a ring it like so.
Top Mashariki.
Uzuri wangu bei ghali, haupati kiutani. Uzuri wangu nyumbani, ananipa burudani.
Good evening, many thanks indeed for your company. This is Business Insight. My name is O'Brien Kimani. At O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle. Let's get straight into the world of business, where the government will, in the next 7 days, begin constructing 5,000 household-based water plants, as well as desilting all small-scale irrigation dams of between 100,000 and 500,000 cubic meters. Agriculture Irrigation Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kionjori says the program is aimed at transforming agriculture from being merely rain-fed to irrigation.
Statistics indicate that the agriculture sector directly contributes about 31.3% to the GDP and 27% through linkages via manufacturing and service-related sectors. However, over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture has stifled growth in this lucrative sector.
All of us believe in one thing: rain-fed agriculture. Where developed countries that are advanced in agriculture, they do not see rain-fed, they see water agriculture.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation is set to begin constructing at least 5,000 household water plants across the country, as well as desilting small-scale irrigation dams between 100,000 and 500,000 cubic meters.
So that whoever gets that water plant will be responsible for it. They know when it is getting desilted, when it should get desilted, and the lifespan of that water plant. They have to determine.
The program is expected to increase resilience through climate-smart production, risk diversification.
And not only desilting, but also to say how many farmers we are targeting. It must be total transformation. It is not business as usual, whereby you go and desilt a dam there, construct a dam there, and people do not even understand the use of water.
In the latest report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the agriculture sector grew at a decelerated rate of 1.6% from 879.6 billion in 2017 to 893.3 billion in 2017. This was buoyed by drought, pests and disease, which resulted in a reduced crop and livestock production. Maize production declined from 37.8 million bags in 2016 to 35.4 million bags in 2017. On the other hand, tea and coffee production decreased by 7% and 11.5% to 439.8 thousand tons and 40.8 thousand tons respectively. The dry weather conditions led to a general production decline of most agricultural commodities to record an overall decelerated growth of 8.1% in 2017 from the 10.8% growth reported in 2016.
Making a national agriculture mechanization program and starting from next week, rolling out a farmers registration exercise, starting with 12 counties and completing the rest before February next year.
Plans are at an advanced stage to roll out a national agriculture mechanization program across the country to boost crop production as well as reduce the cost of labor. This is expected to grow incomes of farmers and agricultural SMEs. The ongoing registration of farmers is expected to provide the much needed data across the country in order to lock out unscrupulous middlemen who often benefit from government incentives meant for legit farmers. Regina Manyara Guitar reporting for Business Insight.
Well, let's talk about tourism. And Kisumu is keen to build on the established infrastructure, well-tailored conference facilities as well as tourism attractions that complement tourism to pull more numbers to the region. This week on Magical Scenes, Irene Muchuma highlights the potential of conference tourism in Kisumu as a county.
Kisumu is one of the largest cities in Kenya. There is no disputing that the wildlife, heritage tourism and ecotourism are abundant, with flora and fauna earning the attention of would-be visitors to this lakeside part of Kenya. Kisumu has stabilized as an ideal conference tourism destination, with focus now shifting to winning the numbers owing to the tranquility, infrastructure and world-class facilities. This is Kachok area in Kisumu town, well cared for trees, beautiful lawns and world-class conferencing and tourism facilities.
Conferencing can be training sessions, seminars, training workshops, but apart from that, just AGMs also, annual general meeting of various organizations.
Investors are seeking to give the leisure traveler a relaxing home away from the home atmosphere, offering a complete leisurely experience with state-of-the-art facilities.
Kisumu has grown over time. Since 2002, I've been coming here and I've seen the growth of Kisumu. Those who have been in Kisumu over the past 10 years can actually see the improvement. This Kisumu is not the Kisumu that was there before. Of course, the reporting about Kisumu has not been that positive, especially the past 1 year, but it depends on where you are.
We think Kisumu will grow. The good news is there is a political stability that we are experiencing in the last few months, and that bodes very well for Kisumu, because Kisumu, the leadership of Kisumu, the political leadership of Kisumu now has gone ahead and shaken hands with the people in power, and that really portends well for Kisumu and for the investors who are coming into Kisumu.
And as they say, the best way to appreciate the beauty of Kisumu County is on the lake itself. 9 out of 10 visitors would not leave the county without a glance of the spectacular lake.
I'm liking it, and I'm here with my family, my twins and my wife and some friends also. And we like the place here. I like very much this place here, overviewing the Victoria Lake.
The lake is about 4,000 years old. It is the world's second largest lake after Lake Superior in North America. It is said that the lake dried up completely several times in the past, with the last being 17,000 years ago. The largest river that flows into the lake is River Kagera, with the famous White Nile being the only river that flows out from the lake, making Lake Victoria the source of River Nile. The town is one of the most organized in the country, and it's now a matter of tactics being used by investors to maintain and grow the numbers as they aim to achieve their goals for 2018. Irene Mchuma Odim, Magical Scenes at the Vic, in the county of Kisumu.
Let's now turn to honey money, and demand for honey continues to rise in Kenya, with the consumption growing at a rate of 15% annually. However, honey production has stagnated at around 100 metric tons per year. A kilo of the liquid gold goes for between 500 and 1,000 shillings here in Kenya, and almost 3 times more on the international market, especially in Middle East. I met with the Hive project manager, Stephen Kirago, and I asked him why are Kenyans yet to embrace beekeeping as a business, and this is what he told me. Well, did you know that a kilo of honey costs 5 times more than a liter of oil? But the sad reality is Kenya remains a net importer of honey, despite the fact that we have a very conducive environment for beekeeping. The question is, why are Kenyans missing on the honey money? Joseph Karuga is the project manager at The Hive. He's going to explain to us why Kenyans are yet to embrace apiculture in a big way. Thank you very much indeed, Joseph. So the question is, despite the fact that, you know, there's a lot of money in honey, why are Kenyans yet to embrace apiculture?
One of the major issues we have is ignorance, lack of information. Most of the beekeepers, they don't have the right information, and then 2, they don't have the right equipment for production. They therefore rely on what we call a rain-fed kind of production. That they only harvest the honey, they only have to produce when the weather is conducive.
Demand for honey in Kenya is at an all-time high. But with supply falling short of the market demand, Kenya is forced to import the commodity from neighboring Tanzania and Uganda. Though official data is hard to come by, in 2016, the United Nations Commodity Trade Statistics reported that Kenya imported honey worth more than 33 million shillings from markets like Egypt, Australia and Tanzania.
Beekeeping is one of the best and one of the simplest enterprises you'll ever venture into. Because bees, you only need a very small piece of land, and they would move 3.5 kilometers radius in search of nectar and water. And in that, it means that with a quarter of an acre, you are able to benefit from the entire over 10,000 acres around your place. Because bees will go there, collect the nectar, and bring it for you. So
the Hive Limited project manager Stephen Karuga says there is already a market for locally produced honey waiting to be exploited. Karuga says lack of large commercial producers of honey exacerbates the ability to meet the large demands of markets like the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Majority of honey in Kenya is produced by smallholder traditional beekeepers whose knowledge on the farming is limited. But Karuga says introduction of better technology hives can significantly improve the yields and quality of bee products.
in tropicals like in Kenya, our bees move freely, collect nectar freely, and they make honey for you free of charge. And you don't really have to struggle much. You can grow your crops anytime you want. So in Kenya, we have one of the best weather or environment for beekeeping. And the potential is still massive. It's only that it has not been tapped.
Local marketing systems should also be strengthened through organization of traders and beekeepers, Karuga advises. The government should also help beekeepers by scrapping the 16% VAT charged on hives and other equipment. In Africa, Kenya is the third largest producer of honey after Ethiopia and Tanzania. But Karuga says beekeeping has more economic advantage with about 6 products generated from the trade.
Honey is the cheapest among all the bee products that because bees have got 6 different products, and the honey is the cheapest. We have wax, which is a little bit higher than honey. We have pollen, which they can easily harvest from the flowers they have within their places. We have propolis, we have what we call the royal jelly, and of course we have what are the most valuable product called the bee venom. Those are things that we are willing to partner with different beekeepers in the country, train them and show them how to produce them.
But despite the money in the honey, there are stinging threats to beekeeping in the world, from environment degradation to global warming.
We have some challenges with the global warming, with the way the chemicals are used in our field. It's affecting beekeeping big time.
And what has happened to bees? Where are they? We don't see a lot of bees as we used to see them.
It's all about the use of chemicals, the use of the way people are now busy replacing and natural vegetation with the real estate, with the houses, and they have got nothing to do with the forests, the issue of charcoal burning.
But for now, as the sun shines and the flowers bloom, honey will keep on dripping from the hives, with more Kenyans making millions out of the gold liquid. Brian Kimani for Business Insight. There you have it. If you want to get the money from honey, you know what? You don't have to be afraid of the bees or the stingings. Well, you're watching Business Insight. Tonight we want to focus on sustainable investment and, of course, the environment. Well, I want to feed you with some information that was released yesterday by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And this is information for last year. Let's have a look at how the environment and the natural resources are faring here in Kenya. This is the latest information. You can see that forestry and logging has grown. From the year 2013, it generated 67 billion shillings for the economy. In 2017, 99.5 billion shillings. You round it off, we are talking about 100 billion shillings. The question is, at what a cost to our environment? And fishing and aquaculture, this is a jaw-dropping figure here, because you would expect it to be higher than actually forestry and logging. But as you can see, in 2013, fishing and aquaculture generated 34.3 billion shillings for the Kenyan economy. In 2015, it recorded its highest growth within the sector at 40.3 billion Kenya shillings. Before 2017, we saw a huge slump of 36.6 billion shillings. That is the amount of money fishing and aquaculture generated for the Kenyan economy. And of course, it's also worth to note that Kenya is highly blessed with lakes, rivers, and even ocean. The question is, why aren't we generating much from that sector? And then we got to mining and quarrying. In 2013, this sector generated 40.7 billion shillings for the Kenyan economy. It rose to 44, or would I round it off to 45 billion shillings in 2014. And in 2015, there has been consistent growth, very interesting figures here, of 54.6 billion shillings in 2015. And in 2016, 59.1 billion shillings was generated out of this industry. That was in 2016. But look at 2017, not very good story there, 58.5 billion shillings. We should go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, what is not happening? And in total, look, the figure has almost jumped from 182.7 billion shillings to 250.6 billion shillings in 2017. When you look at the natural resources contribution to our gross domestic product, in 2013, they contributed 3.9 billion, or 3.9%. In 2014, this figure was 3.7%. In 2015, it was 3.5%. In 2016, 3.3%. And in 2017, 3.2%. I will not be quick to say that there was a slump, because in 2013, we had not rebased our economy. And so we rebased our economy in 2015. So if you were to look at the present figure based on our economy in 2015, in 2013, you would realize that growth within this sector would be probably higher. The question is, what do we need to do to boost those figures? you agree with me that they are not looking as rosy as they should be. I'll be posing that question to one guest who we have in the house. But for now, we are taking a short break, and thereafter, we'll be back. This is Business Insight.
Je, waweza fanya nini kwa dakika 4? Unaweza piga chef? Kila kitu ni mega. Waweza pika ugali? Pesa hapa ni mega. Labda waweza fua nguo? Ama unaweza tengeneza milioni 30. 4 minutes are enough to win big with Mega Dollar. Just go to Lipa na M-Pesa, select Pay Bill, enter business number 295888, enter account name KBC, deposit 10 shillings or more, enter your PIN and press OK, then choose 10 numbers from 1 to 80 and send to 29588. And you can win up to 30 million shillings every 4 minutes. Deposit, play, and win with Mega Dollar. The big game for big winners.
Big man show.
So why didn't you call me when you're coming today?
You were in hospital like that.
My love?
I thought by bringing you here, you would help sort out what Ruth is unable to handle. I was wrong. You are a disappointment.
Welcome back. This is Business Insight. Of course, I told you we are live from Broadcasting House. Tonight, we want to discuss sustainable investment. And in studio, we are joined by Jackson Kiplagat. He's a regional sustainable investment manager for WWF, or Worldwide Fund. Thank you very much indeed, Jackson, for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Look at behind you. What are these figures telling you?
Thank you very much for having us at your studios. And if you look at these figures, it tells you how important the natural resource sector is critical to our economy. 3.2% contribution to GDP is not small. And it tells you that this is a sector that we need to ensure that it is able to provide us more and more resources moving forward. And we would also, it is also important to note that the natural resource sector in Kenya plays a very critical role also in supporting other sectors. If you may talk about, for example, the forestry sector. The forestry sector, apart from, of course, supplying forest and non-forest products, it also plays a very critical role because it is what forms our catchment areas. which supply water for the country. The 5 water towers are actually basically forest areas.
Yep.
And these are very critical for us as a country.
And of course, our sustainability as a nation.
Sure.
When you look at 3.2% of our GDP, are you convinced that that's the best we can do?
I think we can do better. One, by investing more, for example, in sectors like forestry, that we can actually increase one and manage as a business. Forestry in this country is a sector that has immense potential. Immense potential in the sense that being a country that we are along the equator, has some of the best ecological conditions for growing trees. And I think as a country we need to think beyond what we are doing now and look at forestry, for example, as a business that is able to generate even additional more income for the country and for communities and for farmers, particularly in our rural areas.
When we talk about, this sector, the environment and natural resources, generating about 250, or that's a quarter of a trillion shillings to the Kenyan economy. And then you look at the amount of money that we are investing. By the way, when you look at the 2016-2017 budget, the investment to this sector was about 44 billion shillings. This has come down to around 35.5 billion shillings in the current fiscal year. The question is, are we investing where our mouth is?
Of course, there is always the challenge of balancing and setting an ambition for the country. As you may know, we are actually below the 10% forest cover, for example.
7%.
We are at 7%. We still have a long way to go in getting to the 10% ambition that we've set for ourselves as a country. We need to invest more to be able to get more returns. But at the same time, I think we need to be very candid to ourselves. Because when you look at, for example, the forestry sector in the country, and you look at the management of plantation forests in many of the government forests, compare that to forests that are in the private farms, especially the tea plantations, you can be able to see a difference in the levels of management. What we need to do as a country is to put more resources, but expect results from investing in this sector. And that is when we can be able to earn more, and that is when we can be able to benefit from this sector. The forestry sector, for example, if I may take the example of the forest sector, supports even the building industry. We cannot be able to purport to say we can survive without the forest sector. Because if we do that, then it means we are going to lose our foreign exchange in importing some of these forest and non-forest products. So I would say investing in the sector would actually ensure that we have produce in form of timber, fuel wood, and products that we always derive from the forest sector. But more importantly, also a way of securing our water towers.
And when you talk about our water towers, and this has been a discussion that we have been having in the last couple of months, because of how the weather has behaved in this country. So where have we been investing? Because Kenya is the level of deforestation, is it deforestation or deforestation?
Yes.
Is it 3%?
You know, the challenge that we may find ourselves in is that at times when we look at the level, or rather the percentage of loss of forest cover, it is so small because we already have nothing to lose. So when you compare it with other countries like in Tanzania or Mozambique, for example, you realize that we are losing a very insignificant amount, but when you look at it in the context of Kenya, it is very huge. So I would say that we need to actually look at our management practices. Because how do we explain a situation where we have cleared a forest because of the fact that maybe trees have matured in a public forest? And 2-3 years down the line, or 4 years, there is no replanting of the same forest.
Yeah.
It is a question of management. It is a question of mismanagement by maybe people who have been tasked with the responsibility to actually ensure that those plantations grow. The other thing is that also, I at times am perplexed by what happens. When Kenyans are given or they buy land, the first thing they do is to clear the forest. Which is something that I think we need to relook at as a society. We need these trees, and we've put policies in place as a country that facilitate, that try to promote forestry.
Let me take you back to history. I'm sorry for stepping on your shoes, but when I was growing up, don't ask me when, I remember for you to cut a tree, you needed, was it the sub-chief or the chief's consent? You needed a letter from the sub-chief or the chief. What happened? Should we go back to that model?
There is still requirements by law to actually get a certificate of origin whenever you are moving forest produce from one point to the other. So which means you must be able to tell that you've gotten or you've cut this tree, or you've gotten this timber from on-farm forestry practice, or any other source that is not a public forest. So it is still there, but I can assure you that I think the management process of the same has also been is compromised in a way, because you would see, for example, in certain instances, charcoal moving through a number of police roadblocks. And maybe somebody gets arrested at the 3rd or 5th. So you would ask yourself, how did it get through the other roadblocks? So we still have a job to ensure that these systems work for the better of the country. And as an organization, for example, we've kicked off a program, a campaign called Keep Kenya Breathing. And this campaign is aimed at creating awareness and providing a platform for Kenyans to engage, plant, and grow trees for business, but also for purposes of benefits to the environment.
So, Mithis, it is estimated that the total forest cover in Kenya is about 3.5 million hectares. And 700,000 of these is what we consider to be primary forest. The 2018 economic survey shows that last year we lost about 2,000 acres or hectares to logging and wildfires. But the report doesn't talk about illegal logging. Could the number be higher?
Yes, it is possible the number would be higher, because if you look at some of the information coming out of the preliminary reports issued by the task force that has been appointed by government, you will realize that there are certain unreported aspects of logging. And maybe it would be prudent to call that illegal. We also have losses, as you've put it, from forest fires. And this, of course, could be significantly high. Yeah.
If we continue at this pace, are we likely to lose our forests? What does that mean?
It's not only losing our forests, but it is actually losing many other benefits that we derive from our forests. One is that the cost of construction materials, for example, will definitely have to skyrocket. Sources of water will definitely dry. And when they dry,
so we'll not have water.
We will not have water for our own domestic or any other uses.
Even for irrigation.
And even for irrigation, which means then that we will not be able to feed the country and supply maybe even vegetables that are usually put under irrigation throughout the year. it also means that our water tables will actually continue going down, because water will not be able to have time to infiltrate into the aquifers, because it will be flowing, running into the ocean quite fast. And you will definitely see many of the challenges we are seeing now, flooding in many of our towns and cities, basically because the water flows so fast that it doesn't have time to seep through the ground, because we've removed all the vegetation, we've removed quite a large portion of our forests. And this, of course, is very, very serious. And it has a lot of impact also on health, because clean water is good health.
And of course, we know the benefits of tree to the environment, I mean to the air that we breathe. Tell me this, we have been talking about exploiting our wealth that lies underground, and we are talking about coal, talking about gold, we are talking about titanium. The question is, yes indeed, that may sound to be a beautiful avenue for generating money and of course for building our resources, our economy. The question is, what are we likely to do to our environment?
Yes, it is true that as a country we are making discoveries of a lot of resources, oil and gas, Mui Basin, coal in the Mui Basin. We have gold in a number of places in this country that are yet to be fully discovered or even exploited. Soda ash, we have got many resources which we are yet to even establish their potential. Sustainable management and exploitation of these resources is very critical. And as a country, we have to make choices today to safeguard the future. And I'll give you a very good example. Today, China has its skies completely blocked by emissions from industrial development and coal, the use of coal for production of electricity. They are not able to see a blue sky easily. Because for a long time, they've been able to use and of course develop very fast while using some of these methods that are coal, emitting pollutants. As a country, we need to make very serious choices now so that we are able to avoid certain things. This country, for example, has immense potential of other sources of energy. The question would be, is coal, for example, an answer to our development problems, even when we have other options? Can we be able to pay for the costs of the impacts of coal when they come? We need to take this decision right now and today so that we can be able to safeguard the future by making choices that will safeguard our country in terms of pollution. As a country, for example, last year, the Ministry of Environment launched the Green Economy Strategy and Implementation Plan that is trying to guide the country through what we call the low carbon development. As part of our contribution to our commitment to the Paris Agreement, which is reducing our emissions by about 30% by 2030. It is an ambition that we've set out as a country. And in any case, as Kenyans, we've promised ourselves to commit to a clean and healthy environment as a right to every citizen. The only way we can do this is to ensure that some of those decisions are made now. And that is why it would be prudent for all of us, for government, to actually take at times even tough decisions, but safeguard the future.
You have brought in the issue of SDGs, and of course Kenya is a member of the SDG club. And when you look at the Big Four agenda, one of the agenda is to increase the value of manufacturing from the current 9% to around 20% by the year 2022. And the question then comes, how then do we industrialize ourselves and then another same time taking care of the environment. Is there any way the two can coexist, for example?
Thank you very much. And I think that is the essence of actually balancing development and environmental considerations. And that is the essence of sustainable development. The Big Four agenda is actually an ambitious and a very important program for a country like ours, Kenya. Addressing issues of health is a priority number one, or rather is one of the key priorities within the global agenda. Achieving health or good health for all Kenyans is very critical. But we can only be able to do this if we are able to make decisions that actually reduce even the costs that we put into the health sector. For example, if you are going to have development that ensures that there is clean water always for Kenyans, then you have reduced the costs of waterborne related diseases. When you ensure that you've reduced and managed emissions coming from industrial development, which is giving jobs to Kenyans, but ensure that you factor in clean development mechanisms, you factor in clean production systems, which at the end of the day saves money for business, and at the end of the day ensures that there is no or minimal manageable pollution that ensures that people remain healthy, then you will have made a big contribution. And in any case, good business is actually the type of business that factors in issues of environmental conservation.
Geometries, within the same pillars, you know, the government is talking about putting up about 1 million housing units by the year 2022. And of course we know that you can't plant a house where there is a tree. You must first of all remove the tree for you to plant the house. Is there any way we can put up sustainable housing complexes in this country?
Yes, it is possible, and there are technologies all over. Green houses, for example, is a model that is being promoted as a model of housing. For example, why should we, for example, use electricity when we have sunlight throughout the day? Can we be able to construct our housing systems in a way that provides sufficient lighting into our rooms? We have solar throughout the day. Can we be able to use this solar for lighting or even boiling water that we use every day instead of using electricity that is supplied maybe through other sources that may be unsustainable? We have got the possibility, and it is a choice that we have to make in terms of what tools do we use to actually inform our decisions around housing. And a very good example is the work that the National Environment Management Authority is supposed to do. Ensure that they supervise development in the country using assessment tools like strategic environment assessment that tries to look at plans, programs, and policies and subject them to an environmental lens. Or the use of environmental impact assessments that try to look at projects and look at how they can mitigate possible impacts coming out of that development. Or even inform a decision that that development, that project should not continue because it will have adverse environmental impact. So capacity of these institutions to be able to make these decisions is very critical.
Forgive my affinity for figures, but you're talking about environmental impact assessment. And last year, the number of what would be considered to be high-risk environment impact assessment projects that were given the go-ahead by NEMA jumped was 1,842.
Yes.
This compares with 850 that were given in 2013. You can see that the jump there is more than 4 times. And so one wonders, if we continue at this pace, because number one, on one side we need development, that's for sure. Number two, on the other side, we need our environment. If we continue at this pace, 20, 30 years down the line, are we likely to be a desert country?
Yeah, it is true that development and developmental needs will continue being a challenge. The answer to the balance between development and environmental considerations is actually balancing. Is that balancing act which provides for an opportunity to mitigate actions but make bold decisions when there is need to stop a project from continuing because of its potential environmental impact. And even in instances where we are not able to tell possible impacts in the future, then we should be able to leave it until when we have the capacity to be able to determine. So I would say this is a challenge that we must continue facing, but we must also be very bold to make decisions and stop projects that look like they are going to impact on us and our environment.
I know this is a very hot potato topic that I want you to touch. Right now as we speak, the Kenya Railways Corporation, together with China Roads and Bridge Corporation, they're in the process of developing part of the SGR through Nairobi National Park, and they are talking about putting about 70 pillars, you know, for an elevated railway line that will go across the park. What is your position on this as an organization?
Of course, we do appreciate that construction of the railway line across Nairobi National Park is one of the biggest challenges that will definitely threaten the existence of Nairobi National Park moving forward. And it will not prevent the next project in another park. The country must develop, but I think we must consider options and safeguard some of these green areas, some of these wildlife areas for the future. So in terms of sustainability, I think Nairobi National Park is facing one of its greatest threats in form of development, because we have already cut off a part of it through the road that is cutting through it the southern bypass. An additional study, environmental impact assessment, is going on for another part of the road that is going into the container terminal, and then now the railway. What will remain of Nairobi National Park? So it is one of the biggest challenges, and I think and I hope that government will still have a consideration to reroute it at some point.
Kiplagat, you sound so emotional when you're talking about Nairobi National Park. I don't want you to cry on TV. And so we have to come to the end of this program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kiplagat, for joining us here and, of course, helping us understand how we can balance between development and nature. So it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jackson Kiplagat is the Regional Sustainable Investment Manager at Worldwide Fund, joining us here to help us make sense of investment and nature. I'm not going to repeat on what he has said. I'm very sure you've gotten everything. Let's move on, where stakeholders in the agricultural sector are calling for more allocation to the Youth Fund to enhance financing to the youth who are interested in venturing in the agricultural value chain. Youth Affairs Director in the Ministry of Public Service, Susan Zhao, says the lack of land for collateral when seeking for loans has locked out many youth from accessing funding for agribusiness capital.
Experts in the agriculture sector have raised concerns over the aging agriculture workforce as youths continue to shy away from farming. With many financial institutions asking for land title deeds as collateral, many youth have been unable to access credit. Youth Director at the Ministry of Public Service says this has disadvantaged many youths who resort to subsistence farming.
The land may be there, but it is owned by Mzee, the father of the youth. And the father of the youth keeps the title deed. And the young man does not know what to do. Because he doesn't own the land, he relies on the father. So even if he wanted to get credit to do the farming, he may not be able to do it.
Stakeholders are calling for more allocation to Youth Fund to enable youth to access capital for agribusiness.
Not that we usually say that young people are not really attracted to agriculture, but are we also making agriculture attractive to the young people?
They have urged the youth to form cooperatives and leverage on technology to access markets for their produce.
When you look world over, in Asia and other places we connect with, cooperatives have done wonders in as far as connecting farmers to businesses is concerned. For that value to get to the farmers' hands, we actually need to have a law that goes beyond just the dairy cooperatives, but even the circles, the entire cooperative movement, that you can actually benefit from this 154 million people market, plus now South Sudan that adds the 154 million to maybe 180 million. So it's actually a huge market.
The International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, has set aside 100 million shillings to finance youth in agriculture.
Every 4 minutes is a chance for you to win big with Mega Dollar. Just go to Lipa na M-Pesa, enter paybill number 295888, account name